Do we need to be any closer, by the way?
I don't know, but all I know was I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM players, and I'm where I'm supposed to be. But are you? Oh, wait a minute. You.
Well, I mean, I'm where I'm supposed to be in the grand scheme of things, I guess, but I'm not 100% sure beyond that.
You're in your favorite place in the world, Vegas.
Oh yeah, Las Vegas. Oh my God, I love this place so much, and they've managed to cancel my flight too, so it's really lovely.
They
I
want to
mean,
keep
it's
you
like
there, basically.
well, I'll put it this way: if it's a choice of getting in at midnight tonight or staying here another day, guess what wins?
Midnight
Right.
wins every time. But anyway, you're there for a good reason.
And what might that reason be, Brent?
Well, is there a fight on, or is it a good
Yeah,
show?
that's right. I'm here for the Hagler Hearns fight.
Oh,
Oh wait, that happened already? I'm late.
I don't think that could happen right now. Anyway,
Oh,
but something else
yeah.
has happened for the first time in years. It is knowledge, right?
Yeah. Now it's 2023. Actually, we'll get into a little more when Rebecca comes on, but um, it's been amazing, really. Let's say this: there's been a few years ago, ServiceNow announced that they wanted to be the platform of platforms, and they stopped saying that after a little while. However, we'll get into it a little more later, by a couple of the announcements they made this time, without saying it, the intention's still there. Let's just say that, and actually taking a step which potentially could really get them there. And believe me, when you're making a claim as bold as that, getting there is not so simple or easy. But we'll get into that later. It was really, look, as always, the ServiceNow AR team, and always, especially my buddy Jeff, um, been wonderful, and they've treated us tremendously well. They've given us amazing access, and the ServiceNow management team has been completely accessible, and it's been at that level just in terms of what we've been able to learn, and just having the wonderful discussions we've had. It's just been really quite a conference. Let's say this: despite Vegas, I'm very glad I'm here.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get into that in a bit. Before we get too far, no moment is Finn, but at least Finn is here to say hi. Oh, wait a minute, or maybe that's the language of the moment is Finn. So I'm going to go, hi, friends. We're going with English here, Sven. Does that give us a I'm hoping. I hope I'm getting that one right. And wow, look at Rebecca saying hi to Sven, and she's literally right there next to you. Want to wave, Rebecca? Can we see like a
No,
hand?
Come on around, Rebecca.
No. See, not only is she on
That's
screen,
so
but
cool.
she's commenting
That's
on
so
the side.
freaky.
No, actually, I think that's Patrick commenting in her name, but that could be it. It's never a normal play, Sven, but we're always glad to be here. All right, now before we bring on the guests, because you and Rebecca have a guest you're ripped right from the showroom floor, I hear. But before we do that, couple of announcements, couple of quick things, quick shout outs. You know what's coming up on Monday in the hot seat? The show that's just, burning things up.
Yeah, so what's the?
Like what, you like what
I
I
literally
did there?
can't read it.
You
can't read it from here. So
well, anyway,
I can
so
see it. I just can't read it. My eyes stink.
Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, the In the Hot Seat crew, they're actually going to have one of our favorite folks in the hot seat. Raju Vagesna from Zoho is going to be joining, I think it's Thomas and Mike Fawcett, for a discussion on the impact of capitalism in corporate culture, on employee experience and customer experience. So that'll be In the Hot Seat, 1 p.m. Monday. We'll see if this actually gets hot, because I know these guys all kind of agree on this stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But before we even do that, you know what tomorrow is?
No, what? Yep.
I love
That I
the
do know.
brunch with the now. Last week we were supposed to do breakfast with the players. Unfortunately, a little thing called COVID got in the way of that. But now that we can't do breakfast, we're going to do brunch. And of course, the one and only CEO and founder of Pega Systems, Alan Treffler, is going to be joining us. And if anybody knows Alan, you know how meek and mannered. And he
I will
doesn't like
say,
a lot. You know.
when we've done these every year now for what, 3, I think, and
I think so. Yeah.
he is not only is he insightful, he's hilarious.
He's
I mean, it's
awesome.
literally hilarious. He is really awesome.
And I expect nothing less tomorrow. But I do want everybody, since it's brunch, I want everybody to come with something, to munch on. Paul Greenberg told me in confidence that he would really like to see a lot of blueberry bagels in the house tomorrow.
All I do is refer to the disclaimer around this that I put up, that Brent Leary's opinions are his and his alone when it comes to especially blueberry bagels.
But wouldn't it be cool if Alan came with the blueberry? All right, anyway. So
No.
that's noon Eastern tomorrow. Brunch with the Playaz and Alan Treffler. And last but certainly not least, next week, we're not going to Vegas.
We're going to Denver.
We're going to Denver. And the folks at Pros are doing Outperform. It's so cool seeing all these events come back. And it's really cool that we get a chance to go and do some player stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. This one there'll be more later, but this one's going to be fun, and we'll be revisiting one of our old buddies, Michael Wu, who we haven't seen for a while. So that'll be phenomenal. And Grad Khan is CMO of Pros, always a trip. I'll say that. He's a really, really creative thinker and is willing to take the shot at it too.
And I think I'm going to nominate him for coolest name in the industry for 2023, because I just like saying Grad Khan. It's just cool. You remember like when we first met Clayton Mask, and I was like, oh man, that's
Clayton Mask was another one.
And Jim Goldfinger, remember Jim Goldfinger? He got that award one year. I think it's Grad Khan's year. I like that name.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll put it up as one of the watch list awards. Best name in the industry.
All right. Everybody get your nominations in for that. All right. Now that we got all that stuff out of the way, I just wanted to put this. This is probably one of the best headshot images that I've been able to use to create a little promo for. So I had to put that up as you introduce our guest for today.
All right. So this is a gentleman who I'm meeting him today in person for the first time, but as long as I've been tied to ServiceNow at all, I've heard about him. He's the Chief Innovation Officer, Dave Wright. He is what everyone has told me, and now from meeting him, I know instantly is incredible. Let's say his title indicates who he really is, a true innovator. B, like I mentioned about Grad Khan, he's willing to take the chances he needs to take to see if the innovations work, and willing to make the effort to get them to work. Catch this though, he is super cool, and he's a complete geek like we are when it comes to the AV equipment. I just found out, and this is a guy who's visionary. So, Dave, have a seat. And Brent, bring up the picture because he couldn't see it.
Oh, you couldn't see the picture?
No, because he was standing away.
All right, so I got to give it to you, Dave. Whoever did this headshot for you, fantastic job.
There you go. That's what Photoshop's designed for you.
I mean, it's got you, with the hand on the chin, kind of giving that inquisitive look, and
like they said, look innovative, yeah.
So,
thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to let the venerable Paul Greenberg take it away because he's actually been there and seen everything.
Venerable starts with the fact that I'm over 70. Right. So ever since then, Brent calls me venerable instead of old. Right. So I'll tell you what, I mean, first and foremost, given that this is your first Playaz introduction, and we do actually have an audience that gets really interested in, especially people who do what you do.
Right.
Can you describe kind of well, let's start with what you're doing, and then I want to get into how you got there.
Okay. So there's I suppose there's a few different elements to the job. A lot of it's evangelism. So a lot of it's doing these type of things, speaking to customers, getting out there and helping the customers think about how they can innovate as well. So having conversations, giving them like a view into the art of the possible. But also the main part of it's looking at new technology and how that technology is going to potentially impact us or maybe not impact us in some cases. Is it something where perhaps we're going to need to think about acquisition, or do we need to think about partnerships, or is it something where we can just build a product? But I think people sometimes misread the role and think, hey, are you in charge of innovation? No, I don't think anyone in ServiceNow is in charge of innovation. Okay. It's got to sit at a company level. But the role I have is to try and influence people, or at least get them to think about things. And then sometimes it makes it to the product, sometimes it doesn't.
So you're sort of combination, let's call it, you have the sort of a futurist part of your job, yes. Really too, a big part, right? Yeah. I always find that utterly fascinating because, look, somebody who's an accomplished, genuine futurist like you, let's say, or Peter Schwartz over at Salesforce, or somebody like that, they're amazing people. Right. You guys are amazing because you really are, what's the best way to put it, the truest of visionaries. Right. Because, look, a lot of people say they're visionary, and really all they are promoting science fiction. Right. Which is, and actually more fantasy than science fiction even, right? To distinguish the genres. Right. In your case, you're actually identifying things that have real potential impact. Yeah. So how do you, okay, look, certain things that just pop up, like AI, right? Yeah. And Gen AI now, of course. It's sort of like, you don't have to find that. Right. Yeah. It's basically literally embedded in your eyelids, right? Yeah. But how do you find something that's, let's say, not quite that visible?
So it could be, so one of the things that I find interesting when you talk about innovation is kind of thinking about how people work. So a great concept to think about is, you talk about new generations coming to work. So I was looking at the way we consume things outside of work, and we consume things like very much in a gig economy type of way. So is there a possibility that you could look forward 10 years in the future and have something like a gig enterprise where rather than bringing people on to do specific roles, you bring people on to have specific functions, and then you effectively put work out there and have that work pulled in by your company. So when I was thinking about that, we thought, well, could we even trial that? So we built a small team in my group where we'll deal with people who need presentations writing, people who perhaps need artwork creating, and we'll take that in as a mini gig group within the company. Wow. But things like that, when you think about how people are going to work differently, that's where you come up with some of the ideas. But then some of the times you just end up burning cycles. I must have spent 6 months before Christmas having conversations with people about the metaverse and how we're gonna transact service in the metaverse. And every time I'd see someone and they'd show me what they were doing, you were like, well, this isn't the metaverse. This is just like some 3D render that you've got to work. But there's no interoperability. It's not the metaverse. So funny enough, all those conversations died out around January. People got less interested in having those conversations.
I think Brent will have something to say about that one. There he is.
Actually, let me bring everybody back on. One of the really fascinating things that came out of the conference, for me at least, from afar, is the partnership with NVIDIA. And NVIDIA is like the poster child for all things, AI and graphically AI, and everybody is kind of pointing to them from that perspective of providing the kind of the AI chips to get a lot of this stuff done. Can you talk a little bit about that partnership and what it means to ServiceNow?
So from our perspective, obviously we run our own data centers. So we run all these paired data centers around the world that the customers come onto. And as we move more and more into the world of AI, we're obviously looking at GPU usage for that. But we've got the the capability now to start looking internally around how we build our own large language model. So if we can build an LLM internally, because we get to limit the data a bit more, we get to reduce the hallucinations, so people get a lot more value from it. But I suppose the cool thing we get from a platform perspective is we can use Gen AI to be able to do the summation to get the information, but then because it is a platform that can take action, then we can say, hey, this is the information you're looking for. Do you want me to do something with that? Do you want me to take an action? Do you want me to execute something? And that kind of expands the whole potential of what you can do with generative AI. You're not just getting the answers, you're potentially getting the solution as well to be able to execute it.
So how does that work explicitly, say, with NVIDIA itself?
Well, NVIDIA, what
would they provide?
They'd be providing the actual GPU chipsets that we were using to be able to process that LLM and be able to build out the models that we were going to use.
Amazing. Well, I mean, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask, so you're the chief innovation officer. So how does that, what do you foresee like that being able to help ServiceNow deliver to customers? Because, quite honestly, right now, it feels like a lot of the Gen AI, talk, and particularly when it's kind of everybody focuses on ChatGPT,
right,
all this kind of, pie in the sky or parlor trick kind of stuff. But it feels like you guys are going to be able to do some serious stuff and bring your customers some really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so I suppose the two areas that immediately jump out is what we do around like knowledge management. So you imagine your traditional knowledge solution, you search for an answer and you get 10 links where it's like, hey, one of these might have the answer if you want to wade through it. But now you're getting that summation of everything presented to you at a top level, so you can consume knowledge quicker. But you can also enhance what you do with a virtual agent conversation. So you can humanize a virtual agent conversation, but you can start to pull in data from elsewhere as well. And that has two elements to it. So one is great, you're interfacing to customers or employees, so you've got that virtual agent, but you can also then start to bring that in as a virtual assistant. So now as someone's doing something, you've got this concept of an augmented enterprise where AI is actually helping you improve what you're doing. I think this big fear about, is AI going to replace me? I don't really buy into that. I think AI is going to make me better. I don't think it's going to replace me.
No, I think despite all the nightmares and terrors that you're hearing people say about replacement, I mean, there'll be some, yeah, of course. But I think to your point, it's why, look, it's honestly why Adobe and Microsoft and other companies are being very careful about what they call it, which is co-pilot. Right. And that, and that ultimately that's actually right.
Yeah, that's what
I agree. It helps you be better.
Yeah.
So how'd you get into this to begin with?
So it was,
where'd you come from?
So it's like, I suppose the whole history of, way back in the late 80s, I was a mainframe systems programmer. Then I ended up doing a load of mainframe software related jobs. And then in the mid 90s, I ended up at Peregrine Systems. So Fred Luddy, the founder of ServiceNow, was like the CTO at the time at Peregrine Systems. Peregrine ended up getting sold to HP. We went different directions. Fred started ServiceNow. I went to VMware for 7 years. So I was head of technology for EMEA for VMware. And then I got the call to join ServiceNow in 2011 to run the pre-sales team, so a solution consulting team. Immediately turned it down because I said I didn't want to go back to the world of ITSM and ITIL, and I'd done nothing wrong, so why do I need to be punished? And then Fred explained what the vision was about. Yes, we are playing in the world of IT, but the vision of the company is to be able to manage any workflow across the enterprise. And that was kind of the light bulb where you're like, well, perhaps this hasn't even got a total addressable market because I can see it going anywhere. So I joined did that role running pre-sales for 2 years, relocated from London to San Diego. And then I was having a conversation one day with Frank Slootman, who was the CEO at the time. And he said, hey, you've got this kind of interesting view on things. You've got this relationship with customers. You understand where the technology could go. And at that time, he said, we'd like to make you the chief strategy officer. So I was the chief strategy officer for 5 years. And then that was predominantly focused around what we did with the product side.
Yeah.
Then when John Donahoe arrived, he wanted to use strategy much more around what we do for sales strategy, what markets we go into, pricing. And I said, that's not for me,
Right.
it's not my area. And he said, but I still need someone who knows the technology. So would you be interested in being Chief Innovation Officer? And that was 5 years ago, and that's what I've been ever
That's
since.
amazing. So so I know from Jeff told me you're from Liverpool.
Yes.
And that you love cowboy boots.
Which the two things don't necessarily go together, but yes.
Well, they literally never go together. So I'm really trying to figure this one out. How did you end up loving cowboy boots?
I see now. Now, if you think the headshot that you have, Brett, was interesting, you should see my headshots from the 80s. So,
hey, don't get me to start searching there, Dave.
So yeah, in the 80s, I was a big hair metal fan, and I started wearing cowboy boots, and I never stopped.
So you
all right, wait. What's your favorite heavy metal band?
Mine was Motley Crue, and probably still is.
Nice.
Nothing. Has anybody challenged Motley Crue with you? Any
really?
other bands come up and kind of? No, I don't mean another person. Another band kind of said, well, maybe them.
I think it was a moment in time. So yeah, my musical tastes moved on since, but yeah, at the time it was all the standard hair metal bands. It was everything from Guns N' Roses to Motley Crue.
What are your boots on?
What about Def Leppard?
He's wearing
a simple thing. Yeah, I was a Def Leppard fan. I saw Def Leppard live in the UK, but there you go Joe Elliott.
Now the other thing I did find out when we first was starting, Brent, was he really is like our kind of geek. I mean, so
I love tech.
So do you do your own like shows or broadcasting? And if you don't, why not?
So I suppose I've just never got the time for it. Just there's always been this travel. There's a lot of customer meetings that go on. But yeah, I was as soon as we went to working remotely, that was like bonus days. I'm like, I can buy everything I've always wanted now. And you would get when we started doing the Zoom calls. It used to always make me laugh. So you'd explain to someone a potential entire new way of working, or you talk about new technology that could revolutionize the world, and you'd finish off and you could say, and this could well change the future of society. And people would go, wow, what camera are you using?
I know. Exactly. Well, I asked you that right immediately.
So what's your favorite like tech gadget that you bought recently?
So I was using the 8M ISO Extreme with like a load of Sony Alpha cams, and then I think I saw other people using it on YouTube videos, and I thought, is there going to be a use case for it? Right. And I ended up buying a Stream Deck.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, well, is it going to be that useful? But I started off using it to control videos, to control PowerPoints, because then I could be in Zoom and control the slides. But then I ended up using it to control all the home automation we had as well.
Oh, yeah, really?
So many different things you could do.
We both do, really. I have Stream Deck Plus. I'm using that one with the knob. The third.
Looks like you guys are having some issues there. Some bandwidth issues are going on currently.
Wait, there it is. Okay, we're back. We had a bit of a glitch.
Bit of a Wi-Fi issue.
Right. But I mean, I use them for video editing. They're really good for that, by the way. Right. And then for lights, around mostly around my production machine,
right? And
for going to key websites and things like that. I use it for a lot. It's great. It's great.
Yeah,
but home automation is not something I thought of.
Yeah, no, it'll do everything. It'll do everything.
That's amazing. Well, I guess look, I know you're running out of time, so you hired. Look, Rebecca is part of one. She's like one of the best analysts I know. She's also a member of a elite program we have with the CRM Playaz called the Playaz in Residence, PIRs.
Okay.
The very first Play in Residence, and the one we ultimately created the program with, was Brian.
Oh, Brian Solis.
Brian Solis. You have hired Brian.
Yes.
And one suggestion, by the way, now that you have hired Brian, that gives you and him an excuse to do shows with all that equipment of yours.
Yep.
Right? So, tell us about, Brian is an extremely well-known person out there, and almost everybody who watches our show probably knows who he is.
Yep.
and so on. So tell us what was the thinking behind actually bringing him on board?
So I think I wanted three things. The first is I can get people. I can get people who can present. I can get people who can talk. But what I wanted was someone who could come up with original thoughts.
Yeah.
So you can never be a group of one trying to come up with these ideas. So I wanted someone who could come in, put a different spin on things, have a different view on things. But I also wanted someone who could. We do a lot of customer meetings. I must do like 200 customer meetings a year, and there's teams of people within my team that also do that across the globe. But occasionally we'll get customers where it's like, well, this has got to be something different. This has got to be something heavily bespoke, or we're going to do something that's really geared towards their business, their revenue generating business. So I wanted Brian to be able to come and look at that and say, well, how could we do workshops? How could we customize things to give people that complete vision of where they could go?
Perfect.
And as a side product, he's got phenomenal social media presence.
Yeah,
so
he does.
That was pretty good too.
Well, and I will reiterate my suggestion.
Do a show.
You and him.
We can do that.
Why not?
He lives like,
look,
20 miles from me. So.
It's one of the things that ServiceNow needs to do anyway.
Right.
More of that kind of stuff, and gives you complete excuse to use all that gear for something that you can write off as a business expense. You can write it off as a business.
By the way, I think we have a comment from Sven that I think you guys should handle. You want to read that?
It's in Swedish. Is that in Swedish, Sven? Sven is. We have a moment of Sven. Sven works at SAP, right?
Right.
A good friend of ours. Spends time he greets us every show in a different language, right? And we have to figure out what language he's greeting us in.
But this is the first.
I want to say this is probably Swedish. I'm guessing. You ever guess?
I would say, yes, it is
Swedish.
Well, I can pick out one word. Right. AI. I see that.
Sven, can you let us know what it is? So David has to get going. So Sven, let us know before he leaves.
So if we're truly using Gen AI, would have
Danish. Okay.
AI.
That's what it actually means.
Understand?
No, we weren't bad. We were close.
Wait a minute. AI can be the first
That's
moment.
right. We just went over the bridge.
AI could be the first moment to understand our customer truly. Today, we understand their actions. With AI, we can look behind.
Okay, I'm not
totally there with that one. I think humans can still understand other humans pretty good if they want to. Yeah, but that's just maybe at scale we're talking about AI.
The only newly sentient thing I know is Patrick. Right, Patrick is a sentient human now.
All right, before Dave leaves,
hopefully Rebecca will show us a picture.
Yeah, but before Dave leaves, we got to ask him the one question, right?
Yes, we do. All right, Brent, take it away.
What is the one question?
He'll let you know.
All right. Well, you're from the UK.
Yes.
So when we say football, you totally means something different to you. But we're going to ask you a question around American football.
Okay, you can try.
Yeah, I think we're going to be safe. Do you have a favorite NFL football team?
I don't. Sorry.
No.
That's a
perfectly good answer.
Yeah, I'll give you. So this is my only American sports story. When I moved to America, when I moved to San Diego, my wife ended up being friends with a guy at the time, with a woman whose husband at the time was the chief marketing officer for the Padres. So he said, "Hey, do you want to come and watch a Padres game?" I'd never seen a baseball game, but we got to go there with the kids. The kids get to go on the mound, and then he took me back into the dressing room to meet the team. And there's obviously all these famous baseball players, and I'm walking down the line, shaking hands, going, "Hey, guy with a beard, guy with a beard, guy with a beard."
And that other guy with the beard, like you two guys.
Baseball?
No, I've never seen. I did. We watched the game for like 6 hours, and nothing seemed to happen. And I went off to get a drink. When I came back and finished.
What do you like cricket?
No, I'm just not a sportsman.
Oh, you're not a sportsman. No, it's not a terrible thing to say. The only terrible thing to say would have been you were a New England Patriots fan.
Okay.
If you had answered that, you would never be invited back on the show.
Never again.
That's literally the only wrong answer to that question.
Yeah.
Right. So
we welcome you back in the future some point in time.
Yeah, that means you will be coming back on if you care to.
Okay, I would love to come back on.
Well,
maybe we should have
I'm actually a hugger.
All right, thank you.
maybe we should have him come on the gear show once, since he's.
Oh, you want to?
Yeah, I can do
Yeah,
that.
okay, we have a gear show where we listen. That's what we talk about.
Yeah, you just talk
All
about
right, you want to be on it?
I'll be on it.
All right, we'll get that arranged soon.
All right. Good to
Very
see you,
soon.
man.
We got the show
See you
coming up.
now.
Take care. Good to meet you.
All right.
Let's see, humans. Well, Sven, you definitely make a point there. Humans often listen to answer, less to understand. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But there are some humans that actually do listen, and when they do, I don't think machines do it any better.
We don't need AI to understand humans.
Nah, if you really want to understand somebody, if you're really interested, I think humans still do that best. Well, humans and Patrick. So.
That's right. And let's bring it in for Patrick.
Look at Patrick.
You know what? Bring up just a 2-shot of me and her. So should we get Patrick bigger? There we go. Look at that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That is human sentience right now.
That looks like an extremely comfortable bed.
Oh, I tell you, that dog is a heart melter. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Paul.
By the way,
Hey,
hi, Rebecca.
Hey, Brent.
So,
hello.
I know you've got a time constraint too, which is, I guess
everybody's trying to get out of Vegas. Why do you guys? I thought you guys liked Vegas. I thought you.
No, she. There's actually what's the keynote coming up?
The former Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Yeah, the former Prime Minister of New Zealand is going to give a keynote, and I think Nick Sisson is going to be the guest. Are you slated to? Yes, Rebecca will be asking something of the former Prime Minister of New Zealand, so she needs to be out of here in 12 minutes. Okay, so why don't we start then with your overall impression of where ServiceNow is and where it's going, given what we saw.
Well, with apologies to Patrick,
That's right.
I'm going to quote Bill McDermott and say, this little puppy is getting to be a big dog.
Wow, poor Patrick. Are you okay with it, Patrick?
I think you'll be all right.
All right.
No, I mean, I think what we've seen is a real move from sort of the ITSM side of the house to the owner of the platform being someone who's talking to the business. And I got to say, the impact stuff is really, really amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, just the ability to understand how you're actually using the software, how those different capabilities and workflows are delivering value, and then being able to prioritize what you focus on to make sure you can actually show the value you're getting out of the application. There's nobody taking the instrumentation, the telemetry to that degree today.
And well, actually, just for reference for the audience, impact is actually stemmed from originally the ServiceNow Customer Success Program, but what they did was they expanded it, and it built on its foundation. They built a much larger, much more expanded kind of program, which encompasses, let's call it, all customer-facing support of any kind. And support's really a limited term for what I mean. So that, and they built it into this tightly knit, extensive program. Every customer gets a basic level of it. There are multiple other tiers that you can buy. And the way Rebecca described it is what it's actually able to do, so that customers literally will get the optimal they can get from a ServiceNow instance and implementation. And it's a 24/7 support too, which is the other side of it. So that if anything goes wrong, and again, not just on customer service, just on improvement too. If anything goes awry or anything needs to be improved, they're there for you immediately. And again, it's tiered. They have, which is astonishing, and I think it's a year and a half, not even. They have more than 1,300 paying customers already.
I mean, you think about it, it's an application that enables you to show exactly how much value you're getting from the software.
Yeah.
So when it comes time to think about, are we renewing or do we need to rationalize our software applications? I've got all the data I need to be able to justify ServiceNow.
And they've actually built in an enormous self-service component too, which is pretty remarkable. We can actually have Aaron Fulkerson, who known a long time you would get him on the show to talk about it. It's pretty remarkable. I think I've known Aaron since 2011. He used to be the founder and CEO of MindTouch back in the day.
And the other interesting thing about it too is where they're thinking about going in linking impact with Rise Up, which is ServiceNow initiatives to skill up employees, right? So if impact tells me that I need to implement a certain kind of workflow to get value, it will also tell me if I have the people who have the skills profile to actually be able to do that. And if not, give me a guided learning path so that I can skill up the people that I have. So linking, here's the potential business value with here's the resources you need, and then here's the exact training that they need to get the certifications to be experts to be able to actually implement that workflow.
Yeah, and again,
smart stuff.
For the audience, Rise Up is a program that ServiceNow committed to skill 1 million people by the end of ServiceNow, basically by end of 2024. On stage, Bill McDermott said, we've already done 400,000. Maybe we've underestimated how much. He didn't. I mean, 1 million's fine. Think about it, this 2023 is not halfway, so 1 million's a good number.
Right.
But the concept of the program and the actual effort they've made is remarkable. And to that, they've also brought in ServiceNow.org too, which is actually their work with nonprofits. And what's Vanessa's last name? Smith? What's her last name? I can't remember. But Vanessa, I think it's Smith actually, who used to be the SVP. Well, no, Vanessa Jones was the Salesforce person. Remember her? She was the one in Salesforce. I think it's Smith or Jones. But anyway, so
sorry, Vanessa.
Yeah, we apologize. But on the other hand, she has a very big presence too. I mean, so she was SVP of Industries, and effectively what happened was because this program has so much both value and importance to ServiceNow for both cultural reasons and also supporting, CSR and ESG. I mean, forget all the acronymical reasons, right? That they've spun it off, and her work is literally focused on nonprofits, right? But it's a big program too. I mean, it's akin to Salesforce.org, not exactly identical. Salesforce.org is actually a bit more extensive because it has has a much larger foundation associated with it, where ServiceNow.org is more support nonprofit on a large scale. But all of those initiatives are, and one of the good things about the keynote were that they emphasized ServiceNow.org and Rise Up first, right? The way they started the keynote, which meant they're looking at their own corporate culture, which is wonderful. And the other thing I would say, and I'd like your thinking on this too, which goes to what I was sort of hinting at around the platform of platforms thing. And they came out with that, I guess 2 years ago, and platform of platforms. And then they kind of dropped the message. On the other hand, I remember right after it, I talked to a dozen, literally, analysts, and 11 out of 12 thought they could pull it off, which was really interesting because most of the time you'd never think someone could pull off that big and bold a claim. But at this conference, they announced, it was let's call it, I mean, it was a little vague, but at the same time, still significant effort that they were calling, that's kind of their entrance into ERP. But it's not a typical ecosystem entrance into ERP the way, say, SAP does it. It's not an end-to-end ecosystem of solutions that are tied together into a single enterprise kind of ecosystem. It's more of a insertion as a platform into the end-to-end ecosystem, which is platform of platforms ultimately. So they're still going there, I think. I think they're just not willing to claim it anymore, which is smart because they'll end up with the same thing if they get this. So what do you think?
It's subtle stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we're not going to replace your ERP. What we will do is make it work better.
Right, exactly.
But also some subtle messaging around the platform owner. So it's no longer the IT guy, but the keeper of the keys. Yeah. Right? Which is important for governance. It's important for having that IT business alignment. It's important for really elevating the ServiceNow champion within the organization.
Yeah, and I think, and McDermott made a really big point of IT and business as no longer head to head, but basically Siamese twins instead, right? They're cooperating together, right? And it was a big deal. It was actually made into a big deal. I think what they're obviously aiming at, which is really good on their part because they can do well there, is the business audience. You know, they've always been, because ITSM has always been their cash cow, and there's no doubt about it. It funded customer workflow, or I still don't want to call it CSM. I don't like the flow of the word customer workflow. I never have, so I've always called it CSM. But which was customer service management, right? And the customer service management actually does have a business audience half the time. Right. It's actually probably closer to the ideal they're trying to reach on the broader scale, but ITSM is still a bigger piece of the company. So from a purely practical standpoint, and given the platform perspective they do have, they're making the right move to get that audiences combined, so to speak, I think. I mean,
and as CRM moves beyond sort of the point applications to, I've got to stitch all of this data together, the CIO is going to have more of a role there.
Yeah, and which is great. I mean, look, this is still the world's largest unicorn. I mean, I've never seen a company do what they've done in as short a time as they've done it, in the way they've done it too. That's the addition. I've seen Salesforce has done it in as short a time, but it was a very different approach to it.
Very different it.
Yeah, a very different it. I mean, one of the things these guys have, and I'm not saying Salesforce doesn't, by the way, this is not a comparison. It's not meant to be at all. But these guys have an astoundingly good management team. Like, it's a great management team. It's
very well-run company.
Oh my God, is it ever? It's like they'll take chances, but they're really well-reasoned chances. They'll make budget decisions, but they're really smart budget decisions. I mean, they don't do that many. Look, like all companies, they have their own issues and they do occasionally stupid things. But on the whole, I don't know a company that's actually run as well as they are. I don't. And Bill McDermott was the ideal CEO for this company. I mean, look, he's a sales guy, and when he presents on the stage, it's a sales presentation, and he's, throwing his fists up and woohooing all over the place. And he literally, in his keynote yesterday, he named 3 revolutions, a movement, and a new version of the enterprise. There was the AI revolution, the intelligence revolution, the workflow revolution. Then he just said, we're creating a movement. And then he called about, what was it, the exponential enterprise.
Exponential enterprise.
Okay, so before we get into what we think they can do better, because I know you got to go in about 3 minutes or 2 minutes. What did you think of the exponential enterprise? And do you think that's something that just a term, or has it got some meaning, or what?
I think there's a layer underneath it that ServiceNow can talk about more. But when you think about how much we can automate with workflow, this is not about saving 5 or 10% of productivity. This is about huge numbers.
Yes.
So while it may not be exponential, it's close.
Right.
It's close.
So,
and that's where I thought the approach to how they're talking about large language models and how to train models has a level of depth and thoughtfulness that I haven't seen articulated from somebody else.
Okay, why don't you dig into that a little bit more on the Gen AI side and their large language models?
Right, so talking about OpenAI and the risks potentially that it exposes, people putting their data out, we've all heard those stories at this point, but talking about how they're using not just their own internally trained models, but industry trained models. So customers will be able to then use that internal private data to fine tune for their own organizations. But thinking about not just broadly training, but when do I use public versus private data? And when do I use smaller models versus larger models?
I thought that was interesting.
Really, really interesting. And how do I train around industry, right? So if I'm training for an automotive company, I'm going to give them a much different set of data to look at than one in consumer goods, for example.
Exactly.
I thought that was really interesting.
I actually thought that was a key difference between everyone else is talking about large language models because they want to talk about large language models. These guys were really thinking about how to actually use them versus when they don't need to use them.
Right.
Which is awesome.
Right.
All right, so final thing. What's one thing they can do better or should have done better? Either should have done better here, or can do better strategically. Just one thing.
I think impact is still their best kept secret.
Okay.
Certainly talking about more about that and helping customers understand how they can use it as a tool. But also when we think about employee workflows and customer service workflows, there's a lot more that they can do to help their champion, that platform owner, communicate the potential value and look at how do I use ServiceNow as a tool to improve access to applications, streamline workflows, and ultimately make folks more efficient and productive.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I know you have to go, but you may not have to hear what I have to say. They should do more of. But I'll start saying it. And you leave whenever you want. Okay, we'll do it that way, and I won't be insulted if you just walk out on me.
All right, my dear.
All right, my love. Thank you.
Thanks, Brent.
All right. So mine's going to sound a little peculiar. So one of the things with ServiceNow, which I find fascinating, is they have a really great culture, right? But one of the things that happens with the culture is they don't come across as a fun company. They really, and that they don't. Then internally they do. Internally, they're actually they really have a wonderful, fun, enjoyable culture internally. But publicly, they come across as incredibly well run, incredibly professional, really smart, really innovative, serious, but worth working for, but not as a company you're going to enjoy all the time. Some of that comes due to one of the earlier CEOs had a actual thing he called corporate thing he called low social, which means you're here to work. You're not here to have a good time. And you should work. And that's sort of permeated. I mean, when John Donahoe came on, it went the other way. We love everybody. The thing with McDermott is he's bringing the balance, but they still need to let people know more that they're, because, look, you and I know, Brent, that over the years, we've seen companies like Salesforce and HubSpot and even Creatio and all these other companies really having a good time with events and presentation and corporate culture and Zoho. I mean, all these companies, people enjoy working for them. They enjoy being with them and around them, right? This is a company you're glad to work with them, but you don't necessarily want to hang out or socialize that much. Oh, I do, because I know them internally. Internally, you want to hang out with them all the time. They're extraordinary, and internally they have a good time too. I got some great examples of that. But I think, all in all, they need to let the world know a little bit more of their, let's call it their enjoyable side, and that's not a small thing. So I'll leave it at that.
Sven is asking if Brian is around.
He's here. He's not coming on to the show, but he is here. But I had a one-on-one with him yesterday, and then he and I went out and had a drink. Our drinks went so long, he partially missed the meeting he was supposed to, and I missed my analyst dinner.
Wow.
We just kept going. Well, I completely lost track of time, and so did he. We just had a really good discussion. But yes, Sven, he is here, and it's his first knowledge, conference, and he's still getting his feet wet, but he's already deeply involved in ServiceNow activity, and really people are very excited about him being on board, and he is ecstatic about being on board. So it's a great match. It really is. This is a great match for the company and Brian.
Awesome. All right. Any last thoughts before we end, so you can head to the airport?
Well, they canceled my flight, so boo United. That's a really one last thought. And United, even though you made me 1K once you drop my global services, doesn't mean I'm going to keep flying on you anymore. I think I've had it with you. Just letting you know now. So I will be getting in at midnight tonight. I'm going to have to let people, let Yvonne and some others know. But I have no other list. So it was a good conference. I'm glad I was here. I'll be glad to be home. And you and I will see everyone, I guess, at Pros next week.
Well, we'll see
Oh,
everybody.
that's right. We'll see everyone tomorrow.
Yes, everybody. Sven, get your blueberry bagels ready because we will be doing brunch with Alan Treffler, CEO and founder of Pega. And it is going to be a fun conversation because it always is with
Am I going to have to do what I did one other time, go out, buy blueberry bagels just so I can drop them in a garbage can?
Well, you just worry about getting home.
Yeah, no, I got a 5-hour wait in Denver, so I'll be all right.
Oh,
yeah, nothing.
Well,
and middle seats all the way.
Oh,
yeah,
that's brutal.
Yes,
all right. Well, we'll let you gear up or gear down or whatever you have to do to gear for that. Wow. But glad you were able to get out there and grab a couple of great conversations. It's great meeting Dave Wright for the first time.
I swear to God, man, he is as geeky as we are on that equipment. You should. It was amazing. We get him on. When's the next gear show? Next week?
I have no idea.
Yeah. All right. We'll announce it shortly.
And and also I believe the end of the month, around the 26th or so, is the next No BS with Bob. Which
yes.
Everybody is sitting on their I don't know what they're sitting on, the edge of the seat. I don't know. Waiting for that because, Bob usually has a few things he likes to get off his chest when he does this stuff. So.
And he's ready. He's got his topic set and he's ready to go.
All right. Well, we better let you get ready to go. So in the meantime, and we did have to do, I have to point this out before we go. We put the probably the most popular segment on the show on hiatus until you get back into your studio. So there will be no, I was going to say there'll be no stomping. There will be no Stump the Godfather today, but it'll be coming back, and we're coming back with graphics and everything. It's gone big. It's big.
It's ramped up. Oh, the other thing I highly recommend anyone listening time to register for CRM Watchlist 2024. There's still a few months left for registration. I highly recommend you register now. Send an email to me at, you can send it either to paul@playazproductions.network or paul-greenberg3@the56group.com. Either one, paul@playazproductions.network or paul-greenberg3@the56group.com. Registrations are open. We've got. I don't have enough registrants for me to really be comfortable yet, but I have enough registrants for really to be close to it. So do register, please. Last year of the CRM watch list, this is the grand finale.
Oh, cool. And by the way, Vanessa Smith,
I was right originally. Okay, good. Yeah, apologies to her, but she is actually genuinely a dynamic presence, though. She's a terrific choice for the role, and you can tell that immediately. She's also fearless. Like it's brand new to the role, really, but at the same time, has no qualms about being in front of analysts chirping at her nonstop and answering everything without any issues at all.
Very cool. All right. So you get yourself ready to escape Vegas, although it seems like, what is it? United is plotting against you or something?
Yes, they are.
They can't keep a good man in.
That's right. They can keep me up in the air for a while, though. Ha ha.
Oh, yeah, speaking of, all right, we'll just end it on that note. So in the meantime, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and even in Vegas, Minnie gets the last word. Now I sound like Lawrence O'Donnell. What the hell?
And we'll air this show at 11 p.m.
See you tomorrow for brunch. Get those blueberry bagels, Finn.
Bye, guys.